What is up, my fellow Kryptonians? Welcome to my Superman and Lois episode 2 titled Heritage Breakdown and Review. And I am happy to say right off the bat, it follows suit with the premiere. As I said, and unexpected, I expect the first 2 or 3 episodes to still be prestigious, kind of no matter what. But I'm already kind of feeling a little bit of confidence that it maintains it throughout the season. But I'm really happy with this episode. So much happens. So much that I've got too many bullet points, to be honest. Too many. I just want to point out that my Flash review went up a few hours before this. So if you're watching The Flash, I have done my Season 7 Episode 1 premiere breakdown video on that as well. So go check that out and then come back to this video or maybe watch it afterwards. It's up to you. But let's get right into this. But before we do, if you're enjoying these reviews, make sure you hit the like button. And if you're brand new here and you're not subscribed, seriously, subscribe. Why not? Because that means you can never miss out on a video, hopefully, especially if you have the notification bell turned on. So first of all, ladies and gentlemen, I just enjoyed the intro. When we had Lois somewhat in this montage reminiscing about moving out, leaving a place she loved, which was kind of almost, it's not like a theme of this episode, but it also recurred because we had Jonathan's feelings being expressed later on in the episode, and this really just got brought up between him and his mother about how they both had lives left behind. But we also saw various shots of Smallville, including the Kent farm with this new start. I loved seeing the measurements of Clark's height in the Kent home. But as we probably all thought, that Lois and Clark would obviously have to deal with Jordan's new manifestation of powers. So they have concerns about him going to school since he's a lot stronger now. And obviously Jordan doesn't feel too happy about this in this episode because now, I mean, I guess this makes him feel even more of a problem if he can't go to school. Because we're literally dealing with a guy who's felt alienated his whole life. So what kind of feels more alienating than not being allowed to go to school and fit in? However, this is where we really get started in this episode with the stranger in the Warsuit, as Lois puts it, saying that he really got to you, didn't he? Because he seemed to know a lot about Superman. We had General Lane working on tracking his location, because I think we can all agree after this episode there is a lot of baggage there, and a lot of our theories were correct, and which is interesting. I kind of want to get into it now, but I'm gonna have to save myself because I've got so much to say about this Captain Luthor. So due to Superman surviving the kryptonite stab from Captain Luthor, which also appears that his suit has super healing as well because it had a hole in it, then by the time he landed in front of that guy's car, the suit was better. But I trust that's nanotech healing, right? CW, right? As a result of this, and since he didn't finish the job as well for some reason, that means he needs more kryptonite. So he goes to Moldova. I recognize a lot of these scenes from the trailer. I'm sure many of you do as well. In where he's wiping out loads of armed guards, he demands the soldiers to open a door, which would have housed a bit of kryptonite, but it didn't. So this guy is angry. He's absolutely determined to destroy this Superman. And as I was kind of teasing a second ago, I was worried his motivations would be kind of flawed. It's like, well, just because your Superman did this doesn't mean this one will. But I'll get into that a little bit later. So Jonathan heads off to school while Jordan puts on a winter jacket to go off with Clark in this episode to the fortress. If you guys saw the trailer or watched my trailer breakdown, you knew this was coming. And also note how Jonathan says, how come he gets to go flying with Dad and I get to go to school? And there was something else later in this episode where they went out saying, have fun being Superman and Superboy. It's kind of what I suspected could happen that I don't think's being fully presented right now, but just being delivered to us in little seeds. In that I think there could be miniature seeds being sown of jealousy in the boy who's always kind of had more than his brother in other senses, like popularity, hasn't got really as much issues as Jordan. And now for the first time his brother is getting understandable necessary attention, also from one of the coolest dads in the world, in a way, Superman. Do you know what I mean? It's like how they looked at him in awe when he was just getting a wrench at the beginning of the episode as he was flying. I kind of get it. I don't think he's going to be petty to an extent, because in this episode he also demonstrated that he's a really good brother, to the point of where near the end of the episode there were some tear-jerking scenes of where Jonathan offered to help his brother. But I do get how there might be a little bit of like envy there almost, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Maybe a little bit of jealousy as well. Amongst all of this school stuff, we had Sarah helping Jonathan locate class, and she asks where Jordan is because obviously he can't really explain all of that. But then of course we had Sean, Sarah's boyfriend, confront Jonathan. Let's just say the whole school, the football team, aren't going to be kind to him because of what Jordan attempted last episode with Sarah. And yeah, I guess he's paying the brunt of what his brother did. And one of the examples of that is that he didn't get the playbook to kind of go over some of the tactics of the football team. But as we saw from the trailer, when Jordan does go to school, and I'm guessing we'll see this next episode, he's also going to be picked on by Sean as well. So that's going to be interesting, especially with his abilities. Let's talk about the Fortress of Solitude moment. So here we have Jordan and Clark walking in, and Clark explains, of course, after his father died, he felt lost and he had a lot of questions. So he came here and he found his answers, and maybe this place can help Jordan the same way it helped him. And we got an answer what happened to the Sunstone crystal that Jordan pulled from the pod. They used it here, obviously, to activate Jor-El's AI, but first of all, of course, it went over the history of Krypton, and Jordan just looks absolutely fascinated, and this kind of makes you feel a little bit bad, because in this moment he seems so happy, and like there is something special to him, as he kind of articulates later that he doesn't feel special after learning what we did in the episode. And you see little Clark's pod flying out just in time. Of course, it's the cliche Krypton story, but it was just cool seeing it again in like another iteration, I suppose. And this is where we get the reveal of the Arrowverse's Jor-El, I suppose, even in his suit. And all of this I found really cool. It was a very interesting scene, because obviously we're getting down to like the molecular side of Kryptonian/human cells, so I was really intrigued to see what he would say in this episode, especially from being teased in the trailer. And this is where Jor-El almost gets excited in the AI form and says, well, it's possible for us to further our Kryptonian heritage after all, and you, Jordan, will be the one to do it, only to have it kind of yoinked from him later. Yeah, but as I said, I don't believe what they're saying. I mean, I believe that's what they believe, but I think we can all agree it's not going to be that simple. Meanwhile, in this episode, we have Lois doing what Lois does best, looking into Morgan Edge. I thoroughly enjoyed Lois Lane in this episode. I know some people haven't been sure about Bitsy Tulloch from the very get-go with her appearance in the Arrowverse, but maybe it's just I was a bit biased because I was a fan of her in Grimm, but I liked her portrayal as Lois in the crossover, and honestly, I really love her as Lois. In this episode, she embodies Lois so much. I really, really see it. I feel like the story they're giving her is really solid. Like it really, I mean, of course we knew going in this show that it is in the title Superman and Lois, but some people still thought it'd be more about Superman. They are truly cracking it down the middle and giving us the journalist Lois Lane side of things and the Superman side of things with Captain Luthor, and I'm just here to see it, and I love it. So we had Lana and Carl walk into the diner. Of course, they get invited to that barbecue, but Kyle also in this moment feels like Morgan Edge, as was kind of described in the last episode, is bringing more jobs to Smallville. We get a tease from the mayor when he walks by that there's a council meeting going on later tonight, which really gets the ball rolling for Lois's story, and that really starts the beginning chapter for Lois's journalism story within Smallville, because as we all know, of the ending scene, she joins the Smallville Gazette. But one thing I wanted to mention, something that really bolsters my faith even more, not that I had anything against it in the beginning, but I was still feeling it out, so to speak, and that scene when Clark got back with Jordan and we saw, by the way, the music in this episode, I feel like the music in this series is really good, but this moment in particular that I'm saying, after Jonathan's rough day, they arrive, and it was just really wholesome to see how Jordan ran over and greet his brother. Jonathan said, you know, what's up, big dog? Despite the jerky older brother relationship, which can, you know, can be kind of typical. You know, I'm a middle child myself. I've got an older brother, a younger sister. I get that dynamic. It's just nice to see how close they are still. I don't know. I just really like seeing that, and it's just kind of makes me really, not really invested in the kids, but like I feel like I'm warming to them a lot. They're very good actors, especially the scenes we got in this episode, and I feel like I'm really going to get invested as the episodes unfold in their relationship, especially with how much complexity is going on with several different storylines. We've got the high school stuff, we've got the power manifesting stuff, we've got some jealousy going on, but also brotherly love. It's just like there's a lot there, and I feel like they're more than equipped to deal with this, at least from what I've seen in 2 episodes. But I guess I don't want to jump the gun, but for what I'm seeing so far, I'm loving in every dynamic. The Lois and Clark, which I'll rave about later, but also the boys. And this is what I mean, like, I know he kind of has a bit of an outburst later and basically blames Jordan, which, you know, I understand in a sense. He's still putting on a front initially, trying to shield everyone from it, including his brother. And I really do feel like, and I know a lot of people are aware of this anyway, that they're subverting the expectations of the brothers, like the assumptions how we thought, even though he is a bit of a jerky, jockey type brother, they've completely juxtaposed, if you will, their kind of positions, where as I said earlier, Jordan now feels like the special one, and, you know, even though they gave in the whole situation of how his powers won't manifest and maybe it was a one-time thing, he still is low-key the one, at least for now, with those Kryptonian abilities, and now the more popular one is just not really that so much, and I think that's a really interesting way to play it. At this point, though, we saw General Lane arrive. Also, I appreciate that little demonstration of Clark's powers, because he was like, he's got his work face on when he kind of super zoomed in. I think we all can just appreciate little moments like that. And General Lane explains to Clark what happened with Captain Luthor hitting a black market weapons site in Moldova. General Lane's guys found a way to identify him that if he ever goes airborne again, they'll find out when he does. But also in this moment, we got that part from the trailer that I was kind of looking forward to, because I really do feel like this relationship is fascinating to watch unfold in a whole new way of story, because General Lane, you know, is often in a cliche sense against the Superman and Lois kind of thing, but now it's like, okay, he's accepted that, but he's now against Superman telling his kids about it, because here he voices his disapproval of Clark telling his sons about the heritage. You took Lois away from where she needs to be, hurt Jonathan's football chances, Jordan's got no chance of fitting in with kids here, and that he's just ruined their childhood. Could you imagine hearing that from your wife's father? Like, how bad Clark would feel? Even though he doesn't believe that, it would, no matter what, make you feel a little bit insecure, like, did I make the right decision? It's just, it's drama, but it's not the typical CW drama, I would say. It's all valid, very valid to the show, and it's got some substance there. And, you know, whilst you may disagree with General Lane, there is some logic to it, which is what I appreciate. I like playing devil's advocate in these situations. I do get his apprehension, especially when he tried to explain and articulate why he felt this way. For example, how not only did he just ruin their childhood, he's also seen the toll that this takes on Lois over the years. She'll never say anything to you, but I know, because he's her father, he sees it. And it's true. Like, for example, that moment when they were having a little family intervention when Jonathan snapped. Just before Lois walked away, you can see she was adamant about the barbecue because she needed that to happen. You can, well, see the toll that it was taking on her, as General Lane said, and this is kind of what he's teasing, because it's kind of made things a lot more complicated with Superman now being in everyone's lives in the family. Anyway, in this moment, Clark hears about Mongolia when General Lane gets a call and goes up, up, and away, which is when, meanwhile, we have Jordan and Jonathan going with Lois to the city council meeting. You can see in this moment that Jordan is kind of suspicious of Jonathan with the playbook thing that Sarah talks about. But the real thing we need to talk about here is the Lois Lane stuff. Initially, she sees the woman who was at the diner now at the city council meeting, and it turns out she works for the Smallville Gazette. This attaches towards the end, obviously, but in this moment is when Morgan Edge himself is at the meeting, and you can see that Kyle is being quite the hype man, of course. They talk about 600 new jobs coming to Smallville. However, when Lois sniffs the story, and especially with her gut instinct, there is more than what meets the eye in terms of what Morgan Edge is supposedly bringing to Smallville, because Lois asks a question and refers to the fear of what happened in New Carthage might happen in Smallville, and that is, of course, the job creation target was completely missed in terms of, like, by 50%. They were paying well below living wages. Like, how is that really good? Yeah, sure, you're getting more work, but it's like in the most crummy kind of way. Yet Morgan, what I like about Lois's villain of the series, which is another thing I love, there's dual antagonists, if you will, is that he seems to have this charismatic sway over Smallville citizens to kind of save this town and improve its residents' lives, and just Lois can see right through that. And once again, can we just clap for Bitsy Tulloch, Elizabeth Tulloch, because I really feel like she personified Lois Lane here. I mean, in the whole episode, but if you have an issue with Elizabeth being Lois, I'm gonna throw hands. Come on. Okay. However, though, it's interesting the way it's like a battle, like Clark and Captain Luthor have this physical battle, but Morgan Edge and Lois are having a battle of the minds, or the pens, or the words. The words, I suppose you could say, because he tries to turn the people against Lois in a subtle way by smartly saying that perhaps Smallville isn't the place to take a risk right now, which now makes people panic that maybe they might not get new jobs in Smallville because of Lois's question, which, you know, is a sly dog thing to do, and let alone what he did later with literally rewriting her story. My god. Once again, I need to say it. I literally made deliberate bullet point notes here. The hype music in this moment is great. But anyway, back to Mongolia. We see Captain Luthor's ship touch down. It scans for kryptonite, and we hear Clark say, "Stop. What do you want?" And Luthor replies, "You gone." He goes on to say, "It wasn't just me. You destroyed my whole planet, and he basically can't contain himself and attacks Superman out of impulse. And I just loved in this moment, like, I know it's the CW or whatever, and I say that just because, you know, people may think I'm knocking on a CW, but I'm impressed by the action scenes. Like, I loved seeing in this moment how high Clark's punch put Captain Luthor in the air. Like, you could see how, like, the impact of the punch was still pushing him through with his arms swaying down like that, and by the time Superman got back up there, he slam punched him back into the earth. And did anyone notice that this scene seemed to be familiar? Because when he landed back into the earth, I'm pretty sure that this is the same set that they used for the battle location against the Anti-Monitor, in where Oliver rebuilt the universe and actually died. It's that kind of battleground where they're all punching the parademons and stuff. I'm pretty sure that was that. Anyway, though, Superman can hear the bomb in the ship, and Luthor, yeah, he knows Superman. So at this point, this is why I think it's important to talk about what I mentioned earlier. I believe his Superman was good at one point in time, so he knows that Clark will save the ship and not continue bashing him in, so to speak. But the reason why he still wants to kill him anyway is because he truly believes that, yeah, well, if my Superman was good and he went evil, it's only a matter of time until you do. So he knew in that moment that he would go and save the ship. He says, make a choice, Kal-El. He knows him inside out, and Superman saves the ship from crashing into Metropolis and the bomb detonating. He gets hit by the blast wave and falls back to Earth. Now, throughout the episode, we get more demonstrations of how Jonathan just isn't having a good day at the football practice. His football team basically make him look like an idiot. He just wanted a chance to prove himself, and it's going to be interesting to see how this continues to unfold. Back at home, we have Lois and Clark talking about what just happened with Captain Luthor. Anyway, though, the scans at the fortress. This is very interesting because Jor-El says that, are you certain he's displayed abilities? Because the photonucleic effect appears to be insignificant. Clark is like, well, how can that be? And Jor-El goes on to say that his cells can only store minimum amounts of energy from the sun. But he's released an ocular blast, Clark goes on to say, only once, and since then he's been unable to repeat it. He has an elevated strength for his size, perhaps, but nothing extraordinary. He doesn't even have 1/100th of your strength, which is, yeah, like, he's strong, but 1/100th of Clark's strength is, like, really nothing in comparison to Superman's strength. Jor-El finishes this off by saying that these have been random occurrences. He will never have enough power to produce these abilities on command. His human DNA is just too limiting. And I was just thinking, oof, in this moment, mega oof. And obviously Jordan sees this, and yeah, it makes him feel like a freak all over again. However, that moment later, the touching moment towards the end where we had Jonathan say, I don't care what some stupid hologram said, I know you better than anyone, you're definitely something special. If no one else is going to help you figure out what this is, I will. And the strings in that moment, the music, I know I keep going on about it, but this show has got that nailed down, and that literally made me tear up. That's why I love the relationship between these brothers so much, because I didn't think I would so much. So much is being said so much right now, but you get what I'm trying to say. I believe that writing is basically meant to tease that despite these scans showing this, maybe it's because they're growing older, despite what Jor-El said about only storing so much of the sun's energy, thus only having random kind of powers. I think the more he grows up or something, the maybe more the Kryptonian DNAs will overwrite the human cells or take priority. I don't know the explanation, but no matter what, Jordan is gonna probably evolve in some way, shape, or form in the story, or even physically, to be able to use those Kryptonian abilities. We had the barbecue scene. I like the reference from Lana talking about the old days where he has the same look as what he did at high school with the weight of the world on his shoulders. Whereas Lois talks to Carl where, as I said, Carl seems to be a super fanboy of Morgan and Edge, but I do understand like why he endorses him so much, even if it is kind of against logic, because I'm glad they said that. Lois pointed out, like, huh? You seem to be okay with not even earning the minimum wage kind of thing, and he basically replies back, because he's kind of so desperate for Smallville to prosper, as he says himself, short-term sacrifices for long-term gain is what Smallville needs right now. He kind of understands, but I think he's not in denial, but just like is really needing something more for Smallville. Anyway, at this barbecue, just before Clark had to fly off, Lois learns, and this is bad. This is probably, I don't know, you probably can't sue your boss for this. Maybe you can. I don't know. Either way, he literally rewrote her story to be like a fluff piece like that is pro Morgan Edge, and that is pretty mental. No wonder Lois wanted to quit. But either way, General Lane sounds the alarm for Superman because Captain Luthor is arriving at the Department of Defense, where of course they keep kryptonite, but there's interesting drama added into that where Clark didn't even know that. Either way, what was also interesting about this moment, he says to General Lane that he has to stop protecting him. He's not one of us, Sam. Where I come from, you're like me. And you don't trust him either because you know what he's capable of. You have to help me save your planet, Sam, before Kal-El, which is weird. Perfect timing. Kal-El, the Superman, flies in and freaking skyrockets him to God knows where. But what I was worried about, and I really hope they don't go down this route, I know Sam Lane, should I say General Lane, has a bit of a distrust for Superman, but I hope he isn't, should I say, seduced by the ideologies of this Captain Luthor and how he can go evil. I know General Lane, obviously, that's why he's kept this kryptonite there anyway, has a bit of apprehension just in case if it ever goes wrong, but I hope that he just doesn't, I really hope he doesn't join the side of thinking, wait, maybe we should take him down. Which, I'm glad they didn't take that initially, because after the fight, where Superman was smacking the crap out of Captain Luthor's armor, once again, need to applaud the music, need to applaud the action, I thought it was pretty decent. He removes his helmet, and it turns out it was just a robot, and he says, to hell and back, General, which we come to learn to understand what that means later. And General Lane explains how he acted like they were chums, and then there was those dog tags, and Lane reveals the truth about the kryptonite to Superman, because Superman didn't know that there was any more here. And this is what's important about this, and it's kind of funny. He explains and puts it in such a way where he says, let's just say it's the reason the world's in such short supply, and Clark asks why, and he says, so no one gets their hands on it and uses it against you. And I was just like, sure. I think we all probably said that simultaneously in the episode. As if, like, yeah, sure, you collected it so nobody could use it. It's so you could use it against him just in case he ever went injustice style, which, to be honest, does make sense. I mean, it does. It does. That's why I like playing Devil's Advocate with General Lane, because Superman could go evil. It's literally happened on Captain Luthor's Earth, which, as I said, I believe he was once good. Maybe he lost Lois, maybe something else happened. But you always do need backup kryptonites. The same thing with Kara and Batwoman. That's why she asked her to keep it initially. But even though he told everything to Clark in that moment, I'm still worried that they're gonna try and make General Lane on board with Captain Luthor, even though this Clark isn't that other Clark from Captain Luthor's world. Doesn't mean he's gonna turn out the same way, but we're gonna have to wait and see if Captain Luthor really does appeal to General Lane's, I don't know, apprehension of Superman, which, you know, is something that is inherent with his character from the very beginning. Anyway, though, guys, at the very end of the episode, we had that moment where Clark basically said, I can't abandon the world, but I need to try and learn how to blend both and be there for you guys more as well, which, you know, the premise of the show, we kind of already know this, but it was still a touching moment. The kids basically more or less understand now as to why he had to fly out in the barbecue, which I didn't think they would care about anyway, and I'm glad they didn't make a scene of that, because it's like, if something's happening, you can leave an effing barbecue. Do you know what I mean? But what is important in this moment as well is that he gives the emergency beacon to Jordan just in case some shite goes down at school. Now, in the trailer, it showed that Jordan was getting picked upon by Sean, and we also saw Clark in that scene. So what I'm wondering is maybe he activates the beacon. Lois arrives at the Daily Planet, storms in, basically quits. It was so badass. Arrives at the Smallville Gazette, where she's going to publish the proper article. It's going to be interesting to see how many hits that gets. I'm guessing she's going to really kind of build it from the ground up. I'm wondering if this is going to become a Central City Citizen thing the Flash was always meant to do. Sure, they've kind of given that to Iris in a small way, but I feel like in this show, maybe Lois will really make the Smallville Gazette something larger than life. And at the very end, we saw Captain Luthor talk to the AI of the ship. They're going to build a new suit, but it's going to take some time to build that new suit and find the materials for it. Even the AI points out that it seems that this planet's Kal-El is not entirely like the one you've encountered, Captain Luthor, which is when we got the flashbacks of where we saw the Elseworlds evil Superman suit lasering all of those soldiers. So in this world, it's kind of obvious anyway, in terms of what we discussed earlier, he turned Injustice style evil. I'm guessing Lois died. I don't know what else would drive him to that point in terms of like the most obvious way. This does spell out to me. I know everyone was saying, oh, everyone's assuming it's Captain Luthor. It might not be. I still think this could be Lex, and it probably is. It's just his rank was captain on that Earth where they were having a resistance against Superman. We saw that Earth's General Lane die. He says to hell and back, which is why he said it earlier. And this was just such an awesome scene, seeing like the CW's Tyler Hoechlin Superman literally go, well, yeah, it's like from Batman vs. Superman when Henry Cavill's Superman just lasers everyone. It's truly wicked, evil, and does indeed show the potential of a Clark that can go wrong. I'm really firm and would love them at the very least. If this doesn't pan out to be true, I really want them to do it though. Is that Clark, the reason why Captain Luthor is so convicted in doing this and killing the Superman is because his Superman was good. Because some people may be thinking, why are you after the Superman when he's clearly not like your Superman? Well, the idea behind that is that he was once like that, and he doesn't ever want to risk what happened to his planet to happen to this planet. Imagine the kind of trauma that would give you. I kind of understand the villainous-esque, complicated villainous, mind you, mind this Captain Luthor has. Maybe, for all we know, he was best friends with Clark in the Smallville kind of way before he went evil. They could add so much flesh and layer upon this that makes him so convinced that any Clark will eventually turn out this way if some small adjustment happens. And I'm wondering what that adjustment is. Do you think it is Lois, or do you think he could turn in some other way as well, just like he did on that other Earth, but also on this Earth? I mean, it's kind of obvious that he won't, but I think they might play with the idea of Clark maybe being pushed to the edge in some way, shape, or form. Like, we did see Clark get angry with General Lane this episode in that moment. Like, you know, he's like, well, then find him so I can finish this. I can at least understand Captain Luthor's motives a bit more, especially when they basically put it in that one-liner at the end. He isn't like my Kal-El, not yet. And that's the key. And I really hope they show, like they showed flashbacks here, of a good Superman on his Earth, and shows maybe how easy it is for just, you know, one bad day in a Joker kind of way for Superman to become, yeah, the world destroyer, maybe. I hope they flesh that part out, because I think it'd be a lot more interesting for his really thorough conviction to kill this Superman to add in the fact that he doesn't care that this Superman is good because he's been there and seen that before and it didn't matter. So what did you guys think of this episode? I honestly thought it was fantastic. It followed suit very well with episode 1. I just hope that they can keep this engagement up. I think they will. The episodes in this season are shorter than that of a typical CW length season, so I feel like the story will still be engaging no matter what. I'm enjoying seeing Jonathan and Jordan way more than what I thought I would. I love Bitsy Tulloch's Lois Lane. She is just fantastic. Tyler Hoechlin, even though I've been on board since day one, I didn't think I could have more affirmation in him, but I feel like he really is Clark and Superman more and more every time I see him. And I'm really happy to say that. Like, seriously, look how much I'm praising it. It's wonderful to say and see. So let me know everything you think, all of your theories. What did you think of my theories and opinions on the bigger stuff in this episode? And other than that, I would just really appreciate a like on this, and maybe subscribe if you haven't subscribed to stay up to date with my long-ass thoughts in the Blabber Boba sesh. Maybe even turn the notifications on if you definitely don't want to miss out on a video. But other than that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.